Sustainability Karma, a podcast series on sustainable development, sustainability, and ESG, or environmental, social, and governance, on AIR FM Rainbow Delhi 102.6. In this podcast series, with senior journalist and editor Rajiv Tikoo, a who's who of thought leaders from the government, private sector, and civil society share their mantra for accelerating development in India and making the world a better place.
Welcome to this episode of Sustainability Karma. I'm your host, Rajiv Tikoo. Today, we have a very special guest with us, MR Rangaswami, who's popularly known as MR the world over. He's an entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist based in the USA. He's also the founder of Indiaspora, which is a non-profit community of Indian leaders globally working to catalyze social change. So let's welcome MR to this episode of Sustainability Karma.
Great to have to be on your show, Rajiv.
What is the perception about India's green development journey globally?
So the Indian story is complicated, right? So on one hand, the West looks at India and says, India is the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases. That's true. But India looks at it quite differently and says, per capita, we emit less than anybody in the West by a long mile, by like 90%.
Right.
Okay. So that is the struggle that the world is going through with India. Is they're both are factual, but it's a complicated story because you can't have the West tell India, don't have air conditioning for your people, don't drive cars, don't have television sets, don't do all the things that everybody aspires to do, and we already have, but you can't have it, right? So I think that's the story that's upon us today. So when you look at India's goal of net zero by 2070, it looks very far away. But on the other hand, India has shown that from COP21's commitments, it's made those commitments before they were due by at least 7 or 8 years, something like that. So I think there's positives to look at in this story, but that's where it's at.
How seriously does the West take India's commitments on decarbonization, or for that matter, on net zero?
Yeah, I think it's pretty serious, because if you're the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases, it's up there at the top, right? So the whole world is going to look at the top 3, the top 5 countries for both commitments, accomplishments, direction. It has to come from these countries. So I think the West is monitoring just like it does all countries. But, again, there's this whole, divide now between the global North and the global South. And it's good to see India take the leadership at the G20, for the global South, because whatever India does, the global South is sure to look at it, sure to follow the path that India is taking.
Despite intentions, commitment, and progress, India still faces challenges, whether these are financial or technical, on pursuing this net zero target. So do you see any role for Indian diaspora here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just coming back to one point, Rajiv, is in the short term, India has taken very aggressive target of 2030 to have 50% of its energy consumption being renewables. So that's a pretty aggressive task of 500 gigawatts. So that is really good in that, if it can make that target, maybe it can pull back its 2070 commitments as well. So I think we need to track the renewable energy target of 500 gigawatts in the short term, right? But the diaspora, can help. And in so many ways, right? For one hand, Indian diaspora sends $100 billion a year in terms of remittances to India. So this is a lot of money at the use of India to invest in appropriately in all kinds of ways, right? That's one approach that's already happening. The second one is diaspora owned and diaspora managed companies are also investing in India. So I think the diaspora is helping. Other investments are coming in to help. And then, of course, finally, is the area of startups. And that's somewhere where India and diaspora has a lot of expertise. We have invested in startups in so many fields. There's so much venture capital companies run by diaspora. So they can play a significant role in investing in green tech, clean tech companies, renewable energy companies, and so forth. Again, so there are many, many, many ways the diaspora is helping India today.
Indiaspora has been very actively involved in G2 deliberations. So could you please give us an insight into your engagement with the government and G20?
Absolutely. So Indiaspora had our own G20 forum just before the G20 big meeting happened in New Delhi, right? And we brought in leaders from 26 different countries, all Indian diaspora. And we had over 300 people in New Delhi to look at how diaspora can contribute to India's 100th birthday in 2047, right? So, and one of the topics we discussed was climate. And so the diaspora is very committed. Indiaspora every year has a climate summit around Earth Day in April. So we bring together diaspora leaders from several countries to talk about challenges and solutions and how the diaspora can help. So we're very, very actively involved, like I said, in both investments and technology help, any other mentorship.
Right.
So the diaspora is ready and willing and able to help India in every way it can.
And finally, MR, could you tell us briefly about what brings you to this position where you set up Indiaspora, you have been involved very closely with community activities. So what is it that prompted you to do all this?
Yeah, so a backstory on all this stuff is that before I started Indiaspora, I started another group called Corporate Eco Forum, CEF. And CEF is a membership group of 80 of the world's largest companies, totaling a combined revenue of $5.3 trillion, bigger than the Indian economy. So our objective is if these companies can lower their greenhouse gases, can mitigate climate risk, it will help the whole world. These are companies like Amazon and Google and Apple and Ford and General Motors and so many large corporations. And if they can even move the needle just a little bit, it can help India and can help the world. So I was inspired to bring that agenda in as well in diaspora, because I felt the next generation, especially of diaspora, young people, the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds around the world, they're very, very much tuned in to climate action, sustainability. And so this will be a great way to bring the next generation of diaspora to help India.
Right. Thank you, MR. It has been wonderful talking to you and getting an insight about the global perception about India's journey in sustainability and how diaspora can really contribute here. Thank you very much for being with us.
Delighted to be with you, Rajiv. Thank you.
We just heard MR Rangaswami talk about how the world views India's sustainability journey and the potential role of the diaspora in it. Thank you.
We hope you like this program. This program is also live streamed on All India Radio and aired on community radio stations. We look forward to your feedback on our WhatsApp number 9818120554. For participation in this program, write to us at sustainability.karma@gmail.com. You may also connect with us on social media. This podcast is also available on podcast hosting sites. Looking forward to meet you again at the same time next week with a new episode and a new guest. Till then, goodbye from all of us. Sustainability Karma, a podcast series with senior journalist and editor Rajiv Tikoo on sustainable development, sustainability and ESG.